Giants tower in our imaginations, haunting our oldest stories and darkest fears. They are beings of extraordinary size and strength whose footsteps have echoed through human mythology for millennia. Most of us first encounter giants through fairy tales as children. We all remember Jack climbing his magic beanstalk to confront a stupid brute who bellows, "Fee-fi-fo-fum." But such watered-down versions mask a richly complex legacy bound up with fundamental concepts of human identity and culture. The stupid, violent, man-eating fairy tale giant is a relatively recent invention. However, if we look at ancient accounts, we find something much more interesting. Perhaps nowhere are giants more evident than in mankind's sacred writings. The book of Genesis speaks of mysterious beings known as the Nephilim, the offspring of fallen angels and mortal women. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. These were the mighty heroes of old, warriors of renown. But our story about giants doesn't end back in the Stone Age. As the 20th century began, there were a lot of reports of breakthroughs that would change the way we think about history. Join me as we uncover the truth behind the great conspiracy that has kept the Kandahar giant in the shadows. From 1900 to 1920, well-known newspapers such as the New York Times, the London Globe, and Scientific American wrote many articles about amazing finds, such as huge human skeletons found all over the United States. The reports all concluded the same thing: the specimens were sent to the Smithsonian Library and Museum. But this is where our trial ends. Not a single one of these animals was seen by anyone again. Not a single one. We need to know why. Why would an organization whose job it is to keep history alive erase history? Often, the easiest answer is the right one. If these specimens had been found, they would have changed the way we think about human evolution. Their disappearance points to a less exciting truth. The first stories were exaggerated or wrong. But the wonder of giants lives on in the present day. In 2002, at the start of the war in Afghanistan, a secret event is said to have happened that would bring this old argument back to life. The report sounds like a story. While looking for lost soldiers in a remote cave system, a special forces unit found something that couldn't be explained. The details stay classified, but rumors persist. We are at a point where legend and truth meet. Either there is a huge historical cover-up, or we are seeing how myths change and stay around in the modern world. The question still stands. How can these stories keep coming up when we've mapped every continent, taken pictures of every corner, and made a list of every species? Are giants just a mirror of our fears and interests from the past? Is there something else? An interview that researcher L.A. Marzulli conducted in 2016 would rock this argument to its very core. His focus was an anonymous soldier named Mr. K.
A patrol went missing and we were looking for them. When we were up in those mountains, all our assumptions about reality were shattered.
Mr. K related a remarkable tale. It was in 2002, while Operation Enduring Freedom was underway. A patrol failed to return light while the Taliban were engaged in combat in Kandahar province. Disconnect from the radio, there is no hint. The usual course of action in such cases is to deploy special operations. What the unit supposedly faced, though, was far from ordinary.
The cave was our first discovery. Army hardware dispersed in all directions. However, the troops had just vanished, and we noticed it at that moment.
As Mr. K described the creature that came out of the cave, it was unbelievable. A humanoid figure 15 feet tall. However, the details became even more peculiar. Afro hair. Both hands have 6 fingers. Donning a pair of leather moccasins, among other things. And the odor, it was too much like death. But the impact on Dan is what stays with me the most. The M4 carbines, M249 light machine gun, and Barrett 50 cal rifles were their normal issue for that mission. They had sufficient weaponry to halt any threat, specifically any human being. The story goes that the monster swiftly and viciously struck, killing a soldier named Dan before the rest of the unit could react using its spear.
Our hearts were open. All that we possessed, an intense 30 seconds of gunfire. It's completely new to you.
Using the weaponry mentioned, several M4s, a light machine gun, and a Barrett 50 cal would have been catastrophic. Chinook helicopters are routinely used in battle zones to remove sensitive stuff. However, the items that these warriors assert to have loaded that day are not conventional.
Quickly, the Chinook arrived. Quickly, as if anticipating something, as if they were aware of our discovery. We were coerced into signing the SF-312, and there is an NDA with the government. However, certain things gnaw at your conscience.
An investigation was initiated by Snopes in 2016. Seemed like a simple enough question to send to the Defense Department. Had any record been found of a Special Forces soldier being slain in Kandahar by a giant?
No such incidents is documented in our records. Press releases are not to be distributed. There are no reports of soldiers going missing, and there appears to have been no noteworthy activity in that area throughout that time.
Yet, wouldn't you agree that that is the expected outcome? If there is no evidence, then there must be a cover-up because absence does not prove absence. The secrecy of this matter is in the government's best interest. Biblical prophecy is at stake here, not a single instance. The American people have a right to know if our military has seen giants out there that are 15 or 18 feet tall. A perfect storm of biblical prophecy and military secrets awaits those who dare believe in conspiracy theories. The more straightforward question is how anything this big can remain concealed in this day and age of whistleblowers and WikiLeaks. The story evolved to include the debunking as well. The more no comment or denials there are, the more people will assume that something is being hidden. When Marzulli connected the events in Kandahar to old biblical texts, his study took a surprising turn.
These weren't just any big guys. These were Nephilim, the same people mentioned in Genesis and Numbers. The Old Testament tells us about their time in the Middle East, both before and after the Great Flood. We found something interesting when we looked into the deaths in Kandahar during that time. There really was a Dan. His name was Sergeant First Class Daniel A. Romero. Records show that he and 3 other people died in a bomb blast.
Now, though, this is where things get interesting. Could the government's story be hiding something else? Something they couldn't explain?
Something changed in how we were trained after 2002. As for aim points, we were told to aim for the head, then higher. No one said the reason. It wasn't their job. Then it turned into this understanding, something that everyone knew but you didn't say, like this dark cloud over Kandahar.
There is much proof that the giant doesn't exist. Still, the story lives on. It's a well-kept secret among those who served. That leaves us with our questions. Do the giants from old books still walk around? Did something strange happen in those faraway Kandahar mountains? We might never know the whole truth, but maybe that's what makes these stories so interesting. They tell us that there are still some mysteries in the world today. The reasons are still hard to find, just like the giants. But one thing is for sure. Stories like the Kandahar giant will continue to fascinate us as long as there are strange events and secret files. It's been forgotten history. We want to hear from you if you know anything about the Kandahar giant or other strange military encounters. Leave your stories in the box below. If you want to know the truth about giants, maybe what we think is more important than what we can prove. In the end, the biggest mystery might be why these stories about giants still touch all of us so profoundly. Thank you for watching Powerful Primates. Our aim simple, to share stories we find fascinating. Thank you for joining us on that journey. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, bon voyage.